Maine Knows How. Brought to you Modern Woodmen of America, Mainly Handrails, Pine Grove Programs, Digital Spirit Media, and J.W. Parks Golf Course. Maine Knows How.
Welcome to the May edition of Maine Knows How. I'm surrounded here by Wyatt Howe and Bob Howe. We're fully into fishing season. We're fully into turkey season.
Yep.
And we have another season that we were talking about.
We do. This is fiddlehead season. It's just going by right now, and I hope all you guys had a chance to go and get some. They're a rare treat here in this state, and a lot of Mainers and people from away come to get some. And they're good eating, and they're really great with brook trout and salmon, and to have a fiddlehead meal is almost like a tradition in this state.
Yeah. They've very much grown in popularity.
Absolutely.
And there are times a year now that you can even get them in your local grocery store. And how would you cook them up, Bob?
Well, there's a variety of different ways to cook them, but personally I like cooking them with a ham hock.
A ham hock?
Yeah, and it adds a little smoky taste to them. And we've cooked them and we've steamed them, and we use them in salads and lots of different ways. So there's not really one way to do it, but everybody should experience some of them. And you know, when my grandfather would bring us, we just collected hundreds of pounds of them. Now they sell them for hundreds of dollars.
They do.
I know. It's $7.99 a pound. I was like, what the heck? Yeah,
and you could go to the culverts. That's where they seem to grow, where the water was in April, and it's now drying out. That's where they grow, and you can pick them all you want.
Right. Yep. So anyway, and then, you know, it's the fishing season starting right up here, going strong in May, and we'll let Wyatt tell you about the fishing season.
Yeah, like he talked about, nothing better than a trout with your fiddleheads.
Oh, indeed.
So, we've been doing still doing some trolling, and starting on fly fishing. I actually have a fly fishing clinic where I'm teaching some beginners coming up here pretty soon. We're going to take
the end of May or
middle of May.
Yep.
And we're going to teach them on the back lawn. Come in. I have about an hour-long presentation on the actual physics of it, but also the entomology of the river and how to actually go. And then we have a stock trout pond that we bring them over to, and they actually can catch a fish there.
Excellent. And I do encourage everybody to go to Pine Grove Programs website and check out the events that we have scheduled there. Wyatt will be providing fly fishing classes for veterans, law enforcement, first responders, and their families. You can get the exact dates online.
Yep.
A lot of fun, very educational. Wyatt knows his stuff. And it's a great day for the kids in particular because of the small pond that we have, we stock. Mm-hmm. And we can't guarantee anything because we don't have Bob's God Patch.
You need a God Patch.
Yeah, but we can say you've got a very good chance of catching your first trout if you're a youngster. So bring them up, check out our website.
Yep.
We'll also be talking turkeys.
Yeah.
This segment.
Them turkeys, the state really did a good thing with those. I know some people don't like them and some people do, but it's another season. It lengthened the hunting season in this state, and they sell a lot of licenses, and a lot of people really enjoy them. And I have hunters that come from all over New England, as far as ways Oklahoma, to come here to hunt woods birds. So it's a different kind of bird, and it's different hunting.
You're drawing a distinction between a farm turkey and a woods turkey?
Exactly right. They're a different animal. We have an expert here today that's hunted these birds all over, and he's good at it, and he's killed a lot of birds. So we'll get him on here in a minute.
I understand we'll hear some of his bird calls.
Probably.
We'll call them in.
Do you know one turkey hunter that don't work them calls? You should be in the show sometime.
I know some of them that have the electric boxes, and they just hit the buttons.
No, they do.
Is that cheating?
I don't know. I don't know nothing about it. I'd like to thank all the people that allowed us to hunt on their property. There's landowners, farmers, and they know what we do, that we take these folks hunting and fishing for free, and we visit them earlier in the year, get permission to go there. So we'd like to pay a special thank you to them folks for allowing us to use their property. And we really respect their property, and we just can't say thank you enough, because we couldn't do it without them.
Right. You know,
Thank you.
it's all in this business, and everything that Pine Grove program does. It's all about building relationships and keeping relationships. So the farmers in particular have been just great advocates for us and willing to let us get out there into their fields. They're not doing any planting yet, and it's just a great opportunity to get out into nature. I'd like to thank everybody who's listening right now on their favorite podcast site. Please remember, though, that you can also watch us on YouTube at Maine Knows Howe. And you'll get to see a different version of the show, so to speak, in the sense that we'll have pictures and a lot more detail and information provided on the video site. So with that, we're going to close out, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Maine Knows How is brought to you by Modern Woodmen of America, a member-owned fraternal financial services organization since 1883. And by Pine Grove Programs, supporting veterans, first responders, and law enforcement by providing free outdoor opportunities to those who serve, have served, and their families. And by Mainly Handrails, serving New England with custom metal fabrication since 2005. Catering to both residential and commercial. No job is too big or too small. Proud to be a Maine business employing Maine people, offering quality metal products made in the USA.
Welcome back to Maine Knows How. We have a special guest today. His name is Joe Saltalamachia. We call him Salty for short. He is an expert turkey hunter, knows all things turkey, and Bob and Wyatt are going to quiz him and pull out all that information that he has deep inside that brain housing unit of his.
You know, he's really a good deer hunter, too.
Is he?
Don't let him kid you. He is deadly on big deer.
I do all right.
Yeah.
I know, all right.
You can take that for what it means.
Well, Salty, why don't you take it away? Tell us about turkey hunting in May.
Well, you know, Maine is actually world-class turkey hunting, and a lot of people are starting to figure that out. And I've got friends from all over the country that want to come here. In fact, farmers that are having people call from as far away as Texas,
Wow.
California, places like that. People that are seeking out the birds for their 50-state slam, things like that. And they get here and they've hunted everywhere. I've hunted, I don't know, a dozen states, messing around. You know, turkey hunting is a hobby of mine, but these guys, they've seen it all. And when somebody like that tells you this is world-class turkey hunting, we really have world-class turkey hunting, especially the southern third of the state. But that's not how it used to be.
No.
And, you know, I'm really fortunate. I killed a bird. I think my first bird in Maine was 96, and actually was on camera with Andrew Collar behind the camera. And after that, you know, I mean, I'd been killing them in New York for quite some time prior to that, but after that, that was a lottery back then.
That's right.
You had to draw
Yep.
to get it. And I was really one of the fortunate ones who kept drawing
Yeah,
right.
and was able to continue hunting here in Maine. But New York was my primary. That's where I cut my teeth. I killed my first bird ever in New York. I killed my biggest bird in New York State, 26.5 pounds.
Big
Wow.
bird.
That's a very nice bird. My biggest Maine bird's 24.5, which is still a great
That's
bird.
a great bird.
And I still seek those out. It's kind of getting in like the deer, Bob. I'm looking for big birds now, and the rest of them I take other people out. I have more fun taking other people out turkey hunting than I do doing it myself.
So Big Bird better watch out.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, we had Birdzilla. That was the 24.5 pounder. I nicknamed him Birdzilla the year before, and we couldn't kill him. And I went back the following year, and I had nobody to take, and I said, well, today he is mine. And
Yeah.
I ended up getting him, so we can talk tactics and
Good
things
job.
like that.
Yeah. So the population of turkey in Maine has changed.
It has. It has. When I first got here, 1992, January of 92 was when I first came to Maine. And I never wanted to leave after that. it was rare to see birds, and I'm from the Unity area, and it was rare to see birds. And if and when we did see them, we stopped the truck, got out binoculars, watching them, and the state really did an excellent job of trapping and transferring from the southern part of the state. And I think a lot of our birds came from the Newcastle area, big dairy farms, and they would rocket net, box them up, and then move them. Turkeys aren't good at moving on their own. And so a lot of the state had to go in where they had little bits and pieces and help them connect the dots and get back together. And you still see that to this day. You'll see big flocks in one place, and they'll move around, that 1 mile kind of area or so, and they'll do their little circles and move around the property. But you very rarely see that bunch of birds, 5 miles, 8 miles away. And so Fish and Wildlife did a good job with the trap and transport program that they had back in the 90s, and really it's just taken off.
So these birds, they'll spend their whole lives, even winter, they're staying in that 1 or so mile circle?
Yeah, I mean, a little bigger sometimes, but in certain times of year, it just depends. Right now, I'm still seeing toms in groups right now. Right. And the hens in the wintertime, hens, jakes, and jennies together in the winter, but you'll look for those big groups of toms in the wintertime. And in the month of March and April, I spend a lot of time looking for those big groups of toms because I want to see what's going to spread out. And then they spread. About middle of April, middle of April, and this year we had a really mild winter, and so birds are spreading a little sooner. And actually, that could affect the season.
Sure.
You might experience on opening day, normal mid-May conditions where a lot of the hens are already sitting on nests.
That happened last year, too.
It did, yeah. And that, we lost a lot of birds last year on the nest, never hatched.
Right.
Birds can handle wet. Birds can handle cold. They can't handle wet and cold. And that's why grouse took a beating. Woodcock surprisingly didn't seem to get, hurt. But turkeys took a beating last year. You didn't see a lot of poults running around with hens until late in the year. And so there were second nests or even third nests. But that changes the whole dynamic of hunting them. Our hens on a nest right now, and they're going to lay 1 egg a day. And 8 to 30 I've seen in a group. Are they all hers? I don't know. But, and then it takes 28 days once they start sitting on them. But they're one at a time, building their nest. And then when they get enough in their clutch, that hen sits down in 28 days. Well, once they're sitting, those toms go off and look. But there's a term called henned up that I think a lot of hunters experience, where a tom just will not leave his girls. Why would he?
Yeah.
I got 5 or 6 over here. I'm not going to one over here.
Right.
And so the weather can change that. Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah. But early season, I think, is probably my favorite time, only because they haven't been hunted. Those first 2-3 days, if you're lucky enough to have a really nice farm where you are the only person in there, or there's somebody else, but you haven't called early. I think that's a huge mistake a lot of guys do. They want to practice. I get it. I used to be one of those people. But you educate those birds, and that really easy shot at killing the bird first thing goes away. You don't want to educate those birds, just like with moose hunting. Very similar. You don't want to educate them before the season. You want that opening day, that first thing in the morning, be the first time they heard your call.
So if you need to do practice, do it at home.
Absolutely.
Don't do it in the field and trying to attract them, because they'll learn.
Exactly.
Wow.
Going out and listening is great. Going out and watching is great. Learn where they roost.
Right.
I mean, a lot of times birds will have specific groups of trees they want to be in, and they'll be there every day. And if they're not there, they'll be in another specific group of trees close by. So learn their pattern, what they're doing. Figure out where you're going to walk in. How are you going to get around? I'll give you, this is a tip that took me a long time, but I had an ornithologist tell me, birds can't see at night. And I just kind of looked, because I was always concerned about bumping birds. I walk right under them in the dark.
Yeah.
If it's quiet especially. I will walk right underneath them. They don't know you're there. They can't see in the dark. So, but learning where they're going to be in a roosted tree, that's big, where they want to go, especially Bob was talking earlier about farm birds and woods birds. There is a big difference.
Oh boy.
A big difference.
These boys that come, they call one time.
Yeah.
They set up, they make one call, and then they don't move for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that bird is already with a hen.
He knows.
And he knows where that is, and then he'll come. If you wander off, but so that's how they hunt them.
So there's a big difference, but I am really fortunate, and I love farm bird hunting, but I do like woods bird hunting too. Very fortunate to live in a place that still has a lot of active agriculture. And so we'll watch them fly into a field to a specific spot. All right, they want to be there. And we'll set up. And I'm different with my tactics. A lot of guys will want to be on the edge of the field. And I have no problem laying right down in the middle of the field. As long as there's some grass or something there, I'll use my camo. Let my camo do its job. I lay right down in the middle of the field and lay there behind, where my decoys are out. And I'll be totally different than other people. And my friends are like, what are you doing? Trust me.
I agree
Just
with
do
you.
this. Oh, yeah.
I've seen guys do it bow hunting. I take these guys long bow hunting, and they deer hunt in the field. They lay right down.
Yeah.
And they just sit up to shoot.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
The deer goes, what the heck is that?
They don't know.
Yeah.
And so, there's so many different, I could tell you stories that just will blow you away. But maybe another time. But I'll tell you, you don't always have to call even.
No.
So I'm very fortunate. I have 2-3 big farms that I hunt, and two of these farms, I'm the only person they allow in, which is really nice. Once I'm done, they'll let a couple other people, but Joe goes first, you guys wait. And those farms, I do something called fanning. And I promised I would show you guys pictures of my famous decoy, Bob, named by Christy Manuel. I will give Christy credit. She named the decoy. So Bob is a Jake decoy, just a Primo's Jake that has a real turkey fan, bird that I killed, put the real fan on it. And I learned about fanning by accident. I was walking out one day, was leaving, and popped over a knoll on a hill, and there was about 10 birds standing there, and I dropped down, and I held them up in front of me.
Yeah.
And those birds saw that tail feathers and started running, came running. I mean, they were 5 yards when they stopped, and I had the gun in the end, and I just dropped the decoy and shot one.
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder if I could do that all the time. And my buddy said, yeah, they call it fanning. And I said, it's got to be dangerous if you're elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because I do know people that, unfortunately, a good friend, he got shot years ago.
Wow.
Somebody shot him because they saw his decoy, shot the decoy and hit him.
Oh.
And so you do have to be careful with stuff like that. It's not something I would recommend, but I never make a peep some days. And especially early season, if you get a big tom that's henned up and you can get in his, into his comfort zone or discomfort, because of what you're trying to cause him discomfort, and he sees that, they'll come right out of strut and run right to you. And you can take them away. I've taken them away from 15 hens at a time, come running in. You're a rival.
Great tip.
And
Great
it
tip.
is, you just got to be careful. If there's a lot of hunting pressure in your area, I don't recommend it.
So they're protecting their turf.
That's it. They want to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is another suitor coming in,
Yep.
and they're protecting, and they will come running all the way in. And I've seen videos now of guys doing it where they literally grab the bird.
Yeah.
They didn't even shoot him, just grab him. Just grab them that close. I would love to do it, but technically it's animal harassment. You're not supposed to. State of Maine frowns on that, so I don't know if it's ever been done by anybody in this room, but not on video.
So how much time before morning light do you usually get set up?
It depends on conditions, and it depends on the time of the year. So early season in a field where I can get in really quietly, I don't want to be coming across that field when it's daylight at all.
Right.
Because as soon as there's any daylight or even moonlight, you can be seen. So I'll watch moon phases too, watch cloud cover. If it's a full moon, which we do get early in May often, and it's clear skies and the birds can see me, I have to get a new way in sometimes. I'll have to come field edge instead of across a field. But I try and get in when it's dark. None of this half hour before. That's my favorite. Although I hate getting up in the morning. And I did hear one of you guys say, I don't like getting up in the morning. Just especially end of May. When you got your buddy who couldn't get there all season and now they want to come when it's the hardest hunting there is, and you got to get up at like 2:30 in the morning. It's terrible. I mean, it gets light early into May.
Yep.
It really depends on the time of the year, depends on conditions. If you're hunting the woods birds, if it's crunchy like cornflakes, I got to get in there, I got to circle around, I can't get as close, even though there's cover maybe, mid-season, there's leaves on the trees. It really depends on what I'm doing. If I'm hunting open fields, if I'm hunting in the woods, if it's really crunchy, or if it's after rain, it's super quiet, I can sneak really close. But do it in the dark is what I try. And actually, I really like early midday. We're very fortunate in May and in Maine, we can hunt all day now. And it didn't used to be that way. It cut us off at 11 or 12. I think New York was 11 and Maine was 12, so I get them confused sometimes. But now we can go all day. Afternoon hunt is great. I don't have to get up in the morning. I can sleep in a little bit, at least till 6, 7. If I didn't kill one in the morning and I know where they're going to roost, I'll try and get to that roost tree and do my setup there and call them in right at time to roost. So there's an option in Maine to do that other states just still don't have. Yeah.
That's more my style. That's much more my style.
You still like to sleep?
Yeah, this guy in turkey hunt is, from 2:30 in the morning till dark at night.
Oh yeah.
That day is a long day.
It is. It is. Yeah. Back in the day when you could only hunt till noon, we used to do something in New York called a cast and blast.
Right.
And we used to turkey hunt in the morning and then go trout fishing, trolling for trout.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's great, but it is a long day. Yeah. And you do that to somebody my age or older, 2-3 days in a row, you ruin them.
Yep.
You ruin them. No, I don't want to get up on day 4. No, I'm good. Can we sleep in today? Yeah, didn't you say we could hunt these in the afternoon? Yeah, can we sleep in and have breakfast and then go? And that's all right, too. Yeah.
So I heard you earlier today practicing a few calls.
Yeah, and I will tell you this. I used to pick on guys when I first started because I did try some turkey calling contests when I was younger, things like that. And Harry Vanderwide told me a long time ago, and Harry was, anybody that knows, he wasn't a very good turkey caller, but I'd pick on him because I didn't think his calling was very good. And he said, you got to know when to call, you got to know what call to use, more than it has to sound good, because literally you hear guys that are still in the circuit that do turkey calling contests, a wild bird can't win a calling contest, and they're correct. They would lose.
Right.
And actually, they've done it to judges where they played a wild bird, and the judges didn't pick the wild bird.
Right.
Because they're blind judging. Can't see. So I am a good caller. I think for me, it's knowing when to call, knowing what call to use, knowing when to shut up, because Bob just said, do one call and sit. Sometimes that's all it takes. How about this? Scratching in the leaves. Nothing else. That's it. Sometimes that's all it takes. Right. I'll have a wing with me sometimes. If I got a bird that's really wise, taking the wing and dragging it on the ground a little bit, and if they fire off, I stop. So it's taking a bird's temperature. People that are familiar with turkey hunting have heard that. You got to take their temperature. If you call and they don't do anything, it's a cold bird. If you call and he cuts you off mid-call and he keeps doing that kind of stuff, and you just get him to double, triple gobble on you, and those are really exciting. Everybody loves that. That's a hot bird. But it also doesn't mean he's going to come.
That's right.
Sometimes, remember, we're trying to do the opposite of what nature. In nature, the hen goes to the tom. We're trying to do just the opposite. Sometimes if you can get them calling, what it does, and I've had this happen many times, I'll call another bird from farther away who hears him gobbling, hears the hens talking, and says, I want to get in on that action. And they'll come in. So calling is an art. There are guys that are just amazing. One call I have never perfected is a cluck and purr. And I watch guys do it with a mouth call, and I'm so envious, but I don't need to. Because literally I've killed hundreds of birds and taken probably another 100 people plus out to kill birds. So calling is something that it's more when and which call at the right time.
So what are those different calls?
Early in the morning, the tree yelp is, I think, where a lot of guys will screw up. First thing is they'll hear birds in the tree and just start bop, 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 really loud at them. hitting them with a loud yelp first thing. I do a lot of mimicking of birds. So if you've ever been fortunate enough to sit first thing in the dark below birds in a tree, it is a really awesome educational experience. And you listen to them and they're little. If I'm further away, if I'm right under them, I don't call at all. I say nothing. But I will really soft mimic calls, tree yelps in the morning, little stuff, and then let them do their own thing. And a lot of times let them get out somewhere and then call them back. Easier to call a bird back towards the roost because remember, they're safe there. They felt safe. They were there all night. There wasn't anything else there. Oh, is there somebody else there? We'll come back. If a bird is far away, windy day, yeah, you might have to get into some really loud yelping and things to get attention. They make some excellent, I have a box call that's about that long, big boat paddle box call that I can get long yelps on. But most of the time, clucking and yelping. My father's a huge fan of clucking. He's got a call called the Lucky Clucker from New York. Somebody in New York or Pennsylvania invented it, and you're pressing it with your thumb, and it's bark, bark. And he swears by that call. And he's killed a lot of birds too. I think it just depends on the individual. It really does. I think it's a personal thing. But more than anything, take that bird's temp, know where you are, know your place, and then use a call at the right time.
A lot of undercalling is better than overcalling.
Yeah. One of the biggest birds, again, I'll go back to with what you said, one of the biggest birds I ever saw killed in New York State was with Harry Vanderweide. We were shooting video, and the guy that was with us, the guide, this is near Pulaski, New York, he says, we got a huge bird here, he's call shy. He hears calls, he shuts up. He said, so I'm going to call once or twice every 15 minutes to a half hour. Are you guys okay with that? And a lot of people aren't. They want to hear that. They want to hear something. And that's one of the things that draws people to turkey hunting. It's active, right? And he made one call, and that bird didn't say a peep at first. 30 minutes later, he made another just yelp, 3 yelps. And this bird from probably a half mile away did what I call a half gobble. Didn't even full blah, 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 blah. It was a blah. And I turned the camera on. It was ready to shoot video. And that bird took another hour to come. I had to keep on, off, and that bird took another hour to come in, and he came in silent. First time that ever happened to me, and that's why I remember that bird. And that bird came in quiet, and I was the first one to see it. So I caught him coming through the woods, camera on. All right, we're getting ready. I had a little white card on the ground in front of me to white balance my camera, and I'm slowly moving, and everybody's seeing me like, what's he doing? And then, that bird only gobbled that half gobble one time. And we killed that bird. It was a 23-pound bird with a huge beard and spurs that would have been 1.5 inches, but they were partially ground off because when they were hooked, this guy's walking and stuff, he's grinding them. So was really cool hunt. So again, it depends on the bird, depends on the area. If it's a heavily hunted area, you're going to get call shy birds, especially by middle of the month. Sometimes the first week, end of the first week, they don't talk.
Old birds.
Yeah.
Old birds.
Especially the old birds.
Yeah.
They are smart. Yeah.
So, Salty, when you're out there and you're calling these birds and you're checking their temperature, and then they start to appear, how do you select a trophy bird versus a non-trophy bird? You mentioned that you're going through that process now that you've gone through, and you're getting very selective now with the birds you harvest.
Yeah, I am getting selective, but I think it depends on the person. If I'm out with a youth hunter and they've never killed a bird, any legal bird is a trophy bird to that person. Right. But as you get up there and you've killed dozens of birds, or 30 or 50 or 100 plus, and it's just same old, same old. And oh, by the way, I do like to eat them, and I eat the whole bird. I make soups, legs and thighs always stay with me, and if I got time, the whole carcass gets boiled down and I make soup, so the whole bird. But what the trophy is made up, I mean, they score these birds just like they score whitetails. It is beard times 2, spurs times 10, plus weight. And so what I really look at is I look for a heavy bird, a big bird, because it's good to get that weight added on. The spurs. So half-inch spurs, you're probably looking at a 2-year-old bird. They're sharp, but they're half-inch. Maybe in Maine, you might start to get 3/4 for a 2-year-old bird if it was born early. Inch plus, probably a 3-year-old bird here in Maine. 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, you could be looking at a 4-year-old bird, but our birds don't really last the way they do out west. You don't see 2 and 3-inch spurs here in Maine. You get an 1.5 inch spurred bird in the state of Maine, you killed a nice bird.
Yeah. Is that because the predators are so much more prevalent here, or
Winter
kills them
hammers our birds. And yeah, predators too. I mean, coyotes, bobcat. I mean, owls,
Play
fisher.
Owls.
I mean, fisher get them at night on the roost. You know, take them right off. But bobcat too. Remember, they can climb. And now we got gray fox coming to southern Maine, and they can climb.
And they're here.
So they're here too. All right. So there's a lot of reasons, and I think predators are everywhere. But you know, certainly once they get a certain age, and our hunting pressure, we still kill a lot of birds.
Right.
In this state. And to most guys, if that fan is perfect across, it's a mature bird, they don't know if it's, you know, what it is. I try to look ahead. So March, April, I'll watch those flocks of the bachelor groups. And everybody looks at beards. Beard length is great. Unfortunately, in Maine conditions, sometimes we get frozen beards. So you get a mature bird with a little 6-inch stumpy. And it's not going to score well, but it could have, you know, it could be a 24-pound bird, and it could have 1.5 inch spurs, but it doesn't score because his beard fell off.
Right.
You know, froze off in the winter, and you get that reddish on them. You can tell they froze. But boy, if I see real long beard, and that fan is, you know, perfect, big fan, big bird. Usually, if I'm especially in a strange farm, I'm shooting that bird.
Right.
And I walk up, and if it's 1/2 inch spurs, I'm still happy, but I'm not as happy as if it was, you know, inch plus. That's what I really want. Inch plus spurs. And biggest bird I never killed. I called for a buddy. It was his first bird. Bird that all of my friends were trying to kill. Nobody's killing him. And actually, there was guys there that morning. We sat on the road watching them, and they left. The bird's still out strutting in the middle of the field. Big, giant, like probably 200-acre field. This is in New York State. And I said, do you mind if we give him a go? And he said, yeah, go ahead. So we went in a completely different way than they went in, and we popped up in a spot about 90 yards away. And all I did was scratch the leaves, and I used a call because I said, what are you guys using? And they said, we're mouth calls. I pulled the slate out. That bird hadn't heard that slate. And I have a slate call here that is my favorite, and I've had this thing since the 90s. It's called a triple threat. And so I'll carry 2 strikers, a wood and an acrylic striker. This has got an acrylic surface, an aluminum surface, and a slate surface. I'll do your math. I can sound like 6 different birds right here. So I used something that these guys weren't using, and then I scratched the leaves, and that bird came out of strut and ran over.
So what is scratching the leaves?
So birds scratch the leaves, right?
Yeah.
And do that, or walk when it's crunchy. But they do a lot of feeding, the hens.
Oh, they're pulling
leaves, and you'll see where you go through the woods, and there's just spots that are just cleared out, you know, next to the roots of a tree and things like that. They're looking for bugs, seeds.
But why does that attract another?
It's the sound of another turkey.
And they want to fight, or
not
is
even.
It a female?
He heard hens over here, and then he heard them scratching. So I called and got his attention. I let him know there's a girl here. There's part 1. Part 2 is there's a content girl over there feeding. And if they're feeding, they're not afraid of anything. They're just sitting there feeding. They're together. So I just kept doing that with my buddy in front of me, and he popped over the hill on my friend Jay, and that bird had a 12-inch beard, over 21 pounds, and had 1.5-inch spurs.
Wow.
That is a beautiful, talk about a trophy. And that was Jay's first bird, and he still hasn't killed one to this day that's as nice as that
Yes,
bird.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was his first. I said, you totally spoiled. That's what they
Yeah.
call a limb hanger.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can take it and hook the spurs on a limb, and it just hangs there upside down.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that's a limb hanger. Gorgeous bird.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, I mean, there's just so many ways to do this, and that's what keeps me coming back. No hunt is the same.
Right.
They're all different.
Well, Salty, we thank you very much on that talk. I mean, it is a dynamic, fun time to be outside. You're shaking off winter, you're getting out there, and to actually go through the process of calling these birds in is a real thrill.
It is, and I'm going to leave you with one more thing. If you're a deer hunter, which Bob knows I am, you guys know I love hunting deer. One of the really cool parts for me is March and April scouting for turkeys oftentimes turns into deer scouting missions. So I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone.
So to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you're seeing all the sign that's left over. Yep. Scrapes are still very visible before the ground cover comes up. Mm-hmm. Rubs, of course, much more visible when there's nothing else sticking up in the way. So a lot of times my turkey scouting will turn into deer scouting. And I think that a lot of guys that don't hunt turkeys but do hunt deer, here's a great reason to get out is do your deer scouting then. Who cares if you bust a deer now? Doesn't matter. But if you're finding sign and you know he was there last fall, if he didn't get killed, he's going to be there again. Right. It's something I think a lot of deer hunters, I don't hunt turkeys, and I think you're missing out.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I hunt deer all of March.
Yep.
Snow's going down, them trails, pourings, scrapings starting to show.
Yeah.
And almost every March I put out more and more stands, and I cut my shooting lanes. Just in March with Wyatt, we were cutting shooting lanes and looking for scrapes just a little bit ago.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to put a stand here, I ribboned it off. I said, I can put a guy in a wheelchair right here, and he can watch that. There's a beautiful scent post that he can look down on from here.
And now you can see exactly what I just said. Mm-hmm. This is how the turkey scouting turns into the deer scouting, and it's just wonderful. It's wonderful. We live in a great state. We've got trophy everything here, really, if you think about it. And that's one of the reasons that when I came in '92, I said I wasn't leaving, and I haven't. It's been phenomenal.
A lot of Mainers have had that same feeling.
Yeah.
Salty, we thank you for coming in and sharing all things turkey. We hope to have you back. You can download some of your stories on us. Mm-hmm. If you're listening, we thank you for listening on your favorite podcast. If you want to watch the video, just go to YouTube channel, and you can find us there. If you do have any questions about anything that Salty or Bob or Wyatt have said today, please give us a question on maineknowshowe@gmail.com, and subscribe if you're so inclined. But we appreciate it. Salty, we appreciate you. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be back in a few minutes.
Maine Knows How is brought to you by J.W. Parks Golf Course in Pittsfield, a 9-hole facility with a full-service pro shop and driving range offering daily fee golf and membership opportunities. And by A&G Shooting, a brick-and-mortar gun shop offering firearms training and 100% customer satisfaction. And by Digital Spirit Media, providing over 30 years of technical expertise in media production and event production services.
Welcome back to Maine Knows How. It's time for our how-to segment with Wyatt. Wyatt, what do you have for us today? And did you ask your dad for advice on how to give a how-to tip?
I surely did not ask him anything. But this week's how-to is about using the weather to your advantage when you're fishing, whether that's trolling or fly fishing. And one of the things that I like to do is I take into account which way the wind's blowing. If we have some sort of good chop on a pond, I will go to the windward side where the waves are crashing on the beach. And sometimes the bait fish that are there are getting thrown up there and they're getting kind of discombobulated and stunned. And those big fish will cruise those shallow areas in search of those stunned fish.
So you're purposefully selecting the rough waters.
Yes. Now, if I'm in a canoe, or if I'm not in a powered boat, if I'm fly fishing, I go on the other side, because you can if you can get yourself near those trees, you can get out of the wind more.
Right.
And I'll purposely select ponds that are lower in if I'm trying to fly fish, something out of the wind. But if I'm trolling, then I'll be purposely putting myself in those rougher areas where it might move around those bait fish and get them stunned. But another thing is, if you're fly fishing and you're trying to determine what to use, and you look at these rough, raw waters, and it has foam and kind of like suds on the top, I'll take those suds in, and I'll put them in my hand, and I'll kind of like pour water on them and make them deflate, and that will leave me with anything that was on the surface. Where if you're looking at the water and there's nothing on it, it'd be difficult to see all of the cases and shucks and dead flies that were on that surface. So if you can get that foam, which has collected all of that matter that's on the surface, and you take that and dissolve that down, you're left with everything that was on that pond. And that's an easy way to tell what was on there and how to choose your flies from there.
Exactly the opposite of the way I would approach everything.
So that's this week's how-to.
Thank you very much, Wyatt. That's great, and I'm sure my fishing will benefit from that advice. Next, we have Bob Howell up with his story. It's story time.
Well, I don't know about story time, but stuff happens to you when you've been doing this a long time, and you guide almost every day, year round. There ain't much else that we do other than guide, so stuff happens to you. If the more you do, the more stuff happens. And this is a little unique story. We were in the Kennebec River, and we were in a drift boat, and we're anchored up, and we're guiding 2 fly fishermen. So we're anchored, and the current's going by, and we're just sitting there, and they're casting, and they're working the current there. And we look up the river, and there's a V coming down the river. Just like a little V, We went, what the heck is that? And it come over, and it started floating. It's coming down the river, but it's coming towards us. And I'm saying, what is that? And he said, I don't know. And we're looking at it, and then all of a sudden, this great big eagle comes down right by the boat and soars up in the air like this, and that V goes under the water, and the eagle goes by and misses. Then he makes a circle, and that V come right to the boat, and it was a damn squirrel.
Squirrel?
Right? A squirrel. I never seen a squirrel in the river before, and he was swimming for his life. And that eagle went across and landed on the branch. Well, when he came to the boat, I took the net, scooped him up, folded him, and put him on the deck of the boat. The rest of the day he spent underneath there. That eagle sat all that time in that tree.
Waiting.
And we caught some river chubs, and we fed him the river chubs, and he was happy with that.
So the eagle survived.
The eagle survived.
And so did the squirrel.
And then we let the squirrel go. We were all done. And the squirrel spent the 3 hours all wrapped up in that damn net.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, we had a rubber net. So that was pretty unique. But you never heard or seen that eagle coming until he was right there.
I've never seen a squirrel in the
river
water.
Either. Going underwater.
It was watching.
He was watching.
Because he knew the eagle was coming after him.
Whew.
Anyway. That's great, Bob. And just want to remind everybody who's listening on their favorite podcast, you can catch us on YouTube and watch the video of the show. There's a lot more information that we provide, pictures, addresses, information like that. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to send us an email at maineknowshowe@gmail.com. And the most interesting question of the month will get this hat, Maine Knows Howe, and you can wear it with pride. The white ones are good for the golf course, maybe not so good for the woods, but we'll be coming up with different versions of it too. So please reach out, let us know what your thoughts are, And please subscribe if you're so inclined. With that, we'll close out the May edition of Maine Knows How, and we thank you for joining us.
Maine Knows How. Brought to you by A&G Shooting, Modern Woodmen of America, Pine Grove Programs, and J.W. Parks Golf Course. Digital Spirit Media. Maine Knows How.